meantime, have some little challenge here. Let me just...
Okay, we give a minute to Maharaj to land in our association here. I hope everyone is doing well with their classes and their hearing and chanting. Can we send a reminder?
Oh.
Oh. What is this here?
I have a problem with the video.
Pundarik?
They're all busy with the
can you
Darshanarthi.
be careful? Somebody is getting dressed behind you there.
Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guruho Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatana Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate.
There seems to be a little technical problem on Maharaj's side. Hopefully it will get sorted.
Rama Hare 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 Krishna.
Okay, now Maharaj is fully
Sorry
back.
about that.
Hare. Welcome.
Happy to see all of you. Om Tat Sat. Can I go ahead, Mataji?
Yes, Maharaj.
Sorry, I can't hear you. 1 minute. Yeah.
It's all good, Maharaj. You can't hear me?
I can now hear you. Fine.
Okay.
Just have to make a few adjustments. I'll be on 2 logins. One for the, sharing the screen, and the other one for, okay? You don't mind that?
Good.
Okay? Om Tat Sat, Hari Bol, Hare Krishna. Welcome to everybody. Very happy to be here with all of you. Today's session, I've been asked to speak to you about affection and attachment. I'm sure all of you would find that an interesting word, also an interesting function of the human species. How many of you here have experiences that are very vital to your life on investment of affection? You can raise your hands and say, or your digital hand, how many of you here have vital experience about investment of your affection? I'll rephrase that if you want. How many of you here have a moving, deep, intense experience about your affection, your investment in it or not? You invested your affection in somebody and you were, challenged in many different ways, or you enjoyed that investment. Any one of these things. I'm just waking you up. How many of you? Well, I see only a few hands up, so I presume that others are not human beings. Should I? Of course, I think you don't understand the question. Every one of us has got some experience of this situation. So it's okay, thank you. Coming to the point, I'll briefly touch today about some overview on this aspect. I'll share my, can I be allowed to share my screen on both?
Yes, Maharaj, you are allowed to share the screen.
On which one? I have two logins. I think I need it on the other one, where you don't see my video.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So I will discuss briefly today. We will just discuss very briefly. This is not a topic strange to anybody. All of us are reveling in it, or wallowing in it, or rolling in it. Otherwise, we wouldn't be the human beings that we are. And if we aren't doing it, maybe we are having challenges with our own humanity and expression of it. So I will just briefly touch upon some aspects. What is the definition of affection that you would give? Although you have expressed yourself, what is a simple definition of affection that you would give? Anybody wants to go for it? Like I said, I like to wake you up a little bit. What's this? Yeah, go ahead. This hands are raised. Lalita, Preeti, Mai, and Lokeshwari, and Mahashanga.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my
Hari
humble
bol.
obeisances. Affection is like the way of showing our love towards others.
Okay.
Through the means, like through the action.
Okay. Thank you. Yes, Lokeshwari Radha.
Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam Maharaj. So affection is deeply thinking about the other person and recognizing their needs and serving them so nicely.
Okay, very nice, very nice. Thank you. Mahashanga Prabhu.
Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. This is like 1 minute, right? It is the love, concern, care for a particular person.
Okay.
How to express that?
Okay, thank you, thank you. Anarpita Kripamoyi Das.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances.
Haribol.
Maharaj, affection is a stage after the attachment. We have attachment for those we show our affection for them in our different action and by our different emotions.
That's an interesting one. Thank you. Thank you. Right. One more question. Do you have affection for things, or do you have affection for conscious beings?
Yes, Maharaj. Yes.
You have affection for what? Do you have affection for things? You have affection for your mobile phone. You have affection for your computer, your laptop. You have affection for your
Attachment
house.
only, not affection, attachment. Are they?
Yes, Lokeshwari.
It is like attachment only, Maharaj, not
You don't-
affection.
Yeah, you don't have affection for things, right? Yeah. Mahashringa, you don't have affection for things?
No affection. It is. It may be attachment, but no affection. No affection.
Okay, there you've made out some difference. Right. So I'm going to just dwell a little bit once you have defined what it possibly could be. We have some sort of a vague understanding. I'm going to speak a little bit to you about managing your affection and a little bit of the difference between affection and attachment, and then later talk about some higher taste. But let's just get into discussion of affection with one case history. I want to talk about affection after your definition. There are different case histories that we can take from the Srimad Bhagavatam. But I'm choosing Bharata Maharaja's affection for the deer as a very, very wonderful, poignant instance in the Bhagavat. You know, Bharata Maharaj, he came to the forest. Just to recollect the history to you briefly. Bharata Maharaj came to the forest. Jo dushtajan darasutan suhrid rajyam hridi sprishah juho yuvaiva malavat uttama shloka lalasa. The Bhagavatam says that he gave away dusjajan, means tyaja means to give up. Darasutan, dara means wife, sutan means his children and relatives. Suhrid radyam, all his friends, suhrid. Rajyam means the whole kingdom. Hridi sprishah, all that was very dear to his heart, he simply gave it. And what was his feeling towards this? Juho yuvaiva malavat. Just like you pass stool and walk away with absolutely no attachment or affection or anything towards it. Mala means stool. Juho yuvaiva malavat uttama shloka lalasa. Because of his affection and love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He left all these things and he went to the forest. The great king after whom India is named Bharatvarsha. The name India is actually a name given by the colonizing Britishers and others. Originally, Ilavrta Varsha, Bharata Varsha. Bhagavatam Draupadi explains that it was called earlier and it was later called Bharata Varsha. So he came after doing all these amazing giving up of affection attachments. And he comes to the forest and he is meditating and he's doing wonderfully there. He's in the stage of bhava. And he lands up watching this deer, small, just delivered baby. I think you know the story, so I won't go into the details. Floating in the river after her mother is delivered. And he goes and picks up the deer. He pays attention to it as a human being. He should. When you watch some life in danger, when you see that you could do something, every natural human being would reach out. Anybody would reach out. When the animals reach out to help each other. So it's such a natural feeling. He reached out and he picked up the deer and brought it to the ashram. And lo and behold, the deer was not ordinary deer. It was actually a deer set up specifically for Bharata Maharaj. Little did he know that. But it was so soft and so subtle on a very subtle platform. So he paid attention, and then at first it's mentioned that before that he felt compassion. Like you see here, it's mentioned, I'll ask Ambika Devi Dasi, would you like to read what's on the screen?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you
Hare
very
Bol.
much. So Bharata rescues the deer. After Bharata Maharaj took his morning bath in the river Gandaki, he sat on the bank to chant his mantra, and he saw a doe coming to drink from the river. Just then, there was a tumultuous roar on a lion, and the doe, being frightened, immediately leaped across the river. As it jumped, a baby deer fell from its womb and was left floating down the river. The mother doe was so frightened and disturbed by her miscarriage that she fell into a cave and died. Having witnessed this, Bharat Maharaj felt great compassion for the baby deer. He rescued it from the waves and brought it to his residence. Summarized from Srimad Bhagavatam 5.8, 1-7.
Thank you, Ambika. Right. So the feeling here he had was compassion. Okay. He had compassion, and then he saved the deer. And then he brought it to his ashram. And he felt that this deer has lost its mother. I have to take care of it. And he did everything that is necessary. One has to pay attention. And naturally, one will do that. And then you see, after that, it said, he kept the deer comfortable and petted it and dealt with it affectionately. His compassion and his attention for the deer and tending to the deer resulted in affection. It was on a very preliminary stage. It says he patted it. He petted it, he patted it nicely. Okay? Yeah, Mahashringa, would you like to read that?
Maharaj Bharat felt, 1 minute. Maharaj Bharat felt great compassion for the young deer who had just lost its mother, and he took it with him and cared for it. 1 minute, Maharaj, I have to switch off the other mobile. Sorry. He fed the deer grass, made sure to protect it from tigers and other dangers.
Shinga Prabhu, you are locked on 2 devices or something. We can't hear
Yes,
properly.
that's
There's
I'm
echo.
switching off the other device, Maharaj.
Please do that.
Yes, I did that. Thank you. He fed the deer grass, made sure to protect it from tigers and other dangers. Always kept it comfortable and petted it affectionately. He became so absorbed in taking care of the deer that after only a few days, he forgot everything about his spiritual advancement and forgot to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Taken from Srimad Bhagavatam 5.8, 7-8.
Thank you. So you can see that his compassion and his attention for the deer has developed into affection. And that affection has deepened to such a way that he has forgotten his spiritual practice. And it says there just within only a few days it happened. It built very fast. That object of affection that's standing in front of him, the deer, is able to take the attention of Bharata Maharaj to such a great extent that he can give up his spiritual practices and forget everything. Look at the power of affection. It can even completely upset your spiritual practice. After you have given up all types of affections and attachments and come to do that, just a deer can very innocently get into your life, very insidiously enter your life and then completely seek your attention. Okay? So this is a very classic case of affection in a particular way. Now let me stop here and ask you, affection, is it cultivated or is it spontaneous? Affection, is it cultivated? Means it has to be cultivated to grow and become something. Or is it spontaneous? It just comes like that. Yeah, go ahead. Sanchi Agrawal.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yeah.
It's cultivated.
It's cultivated.
It's cultivated.
Aha. So let me ask you a question, Sanchi. It's cultivated. So when you have a child, are you a mother, Sanchi?
No, Maharaj, I am student. I just completed my study.
Okay. Let's say that somebody is a mother. One of you definitely are. Some of you are. So do you have to cultivate affection with the child?
No,
From the day
Maharaj.
she is born?
Being a mother, I don't think so. It's cultivated.
It's spontaneous,
Yes,
isn't it?
yeah.
Exactly. So there are, let's say there are two. Okay, let me go ahead. Lokeshwari, what do you want to say? Thank you, Sanchi.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. So sometimes it will be like, as you said, mother and children, it is spontaneous, and gradually, even among with in them also, it is a continuous attachment, Maharaj, and spontaneous also. And in some cases, out of compassion, as you said in Bharata Maharaj's story, it arises like continuous efforts. Both ways.
Okay. Thank you. Mahashringa Prabhu?
Maharaj, it is it's spontaneous as well as it has to be cultivated. This is a quality which requires regular practice.
All right. Thank you. What is happening here? What is happening here to Bharata Maharaj is, it's not that he is purposely cultivating his affection with an intention of cultivating his affection. Actually, his affection is growing on its own because of his indulgence in the deer. So even if you did not want, your affection will grow. Why? Because your affection actually gets to be attachment. First, compassion in the case of Bharata Maharaj, and then affection. And then if you don't manage it, it grows into attachment, and not ordinary attachment. It grows into attachment that can completely take over your life. In the case of Bharata Maharaj, he could not do his regular spiritual activities because of the deer. And whenever it distracted him, he paid attention to the deer. He happily paid attention to the deer, forgetting his other devotional service activities, right? And then as he did that more and more, he became mad with attachment. From affection to attachment. His attachment was so mad, the Bhagavatam describes that he was like praying to the Lord, where is the deer? I mean, just got lost a little bit somewhere. And so he was singing glories of the deer. He was singing glories of the earth planet, which is having the footprints of the deer. How fortunate is the earth planet that it has got footprints of my deer. It was going crazy. It's mentioned that he became mad with attachment for the deer. So what affection can do to you if you did not manage it? What affection can do to you if you did not manage it? Especially some of them who could be highly emotional. Say women folk, normally a little more emotionally oriented as a design, as a necessity. They have children and they have to spawn their children with affection and love. And so they do that. But many times, if you do not manage your affection, you will see that it goes off into realms that can totally destroy your existence. This is what we see in the world, where there is no Varnashrama, there is no Krishna consciousness, there's no Bhagavad Dharma, there's no education in these aspects. You will see that people are unrestrictedly using their affection. And it turns out into all sorts of things. Krishna very nicely explains in the Bhagavad Gita what happens when you do that. Dhyayato vishayan pumsah sangasteshu upajayate sangat sanjayate kamaha kama krodho bijayate kodha krodhat bhavati sammoha sammohat smriti vipramaha smriti bramshat buddhi nasho buddhi nashat pranashyati. I think all of you know this very well. There, Prabhupada translates in some places kama as attachment, not directly as lust. He says it is attachment that brings about anger. There, kama krodho bijayate. Attachment brings lust, and lust brings anger. So you will see here that Bharat Maharaj has got very attached to the deer. It says he kissed the deer. He kept the deer on his chest. He kept the deer close to him when he was going to the toilet, when he was going to take his bath, when he was going to pluck flowers, when he was making the Yajna Kunda. All the time the deer was with him. He couldn't remain separated from the deer. And this is very unique. It shows what happens to you if you do not manage your affection and your investment of affection. I know of devotees, I've seen devotees in the name of preaching have gone and become very attached or have given too much of affection to some congregational devotee, or somebody even got, married and left and then divorced also. They don't manage how to do it. If you're a brahmachari, obviously you shouldn't go out of your way to show your affection to some Mataji. If you're a Mataji, you should not go out of your way to show your affection to some brahmachari or to somebody else. There are elderly ladies who have shown their affection to somebody younger, thinking that he's like my son, and then something else happens. Something else. This is very common today in this world because nobody is educated on how to manage their affection in a cultured atmosphere of Varnashrama and everything together. There are restrictions on what you can do and what you cannot do. So as Chanakya Pandit says, that you can put your affection on your child from when he is 1 year old to 5 years old. You must do that with no limit, all your affection. But from when he's 5 years old to 15 years old, you must punish him and you must restrict him. You must instruct him for every wrong he does. After he is 15 years old, you must become his best friend. Don't instruct him anymore. Prapte sodashe varshe putram mitram vadacharet. When he becomes old, you become his good friend. And all the time, the mother is feeling great affection for the child, but she manages her affection. When he's 5 years old, Kaumaramacharat prajna, she sends him off to the Gurukul. Why is it mentioned there like that? Parenting. I don't, fondle him and, get my sense gratification out of the affection that I give him. For a lot of them, my gratification that I get out of the affection is a greater importance to me than the child and its own growth. So the child is looked upon as somebody who gives me my gratification coming out of affection. So I give you all sorts of gifts. I give you everything. I want you to be happy. I hug you, I kiss you, you hang around me, and you say those sweet nothings and everything. It's fine for me. I'll give you my mobile. I give you my tab. I'll give you everything, whatever you want. Doesn't matter when you ruin your life or whatever it is. I am getting something out of this. And I like that. This is selfish investment of affection. Contrary to that is the instruction that when he's 5 years old, you send him to the Gurukula. And those days, Gurukula means in the forest. He stays with the Guru. Right? He stays with the Guru and other students, and then he practices austerity. There is discipline, there is punishment, there is learning of the Vedas, there is control of the senses. All this cannot happen if your mom is around, showing you great affection and giving you this and that. It needs a different atmosphere. So although the mom is very much attached to the child, she can come and see the child once in a while in the school. She can come and show her affection and love, but he's getting trained in a different way, away from the mom, right? It's managed very well. And then he comes back home. He's 25 years old, he's taken his education, he gets married, he has children, and his mom enjoys so much that he has grandchildren and he has a wife, and she's very intimately related in a very mature way with his family. He has his own individuality. He has affection for his mom. He has affection for his wife, for his children. It's all about affection, the family. It's managed very well in that design, right? If we didn't do that, you can see what's happened today. I counsel a lot of the members in our community, even otherwise from different places. I remember about a year and a half back, I had a girl, very intelligent girl, done very good amount of education in life, working, gave up her job because her husband, who was going to get married, said, I would prefer that you're at home. And she was chanting a few japa rounds. Little did she know what she was walking into, because the boy had a mother, a very well-educated mom, who had a strange psychological problem of feeling that this girl has come into my son's life and she's stealing the time of my son away from me. And they both were in love, the boy and the girl actually. They like each other very much, which is a very healthy thing. Young, and she took it very differently. She looked at the girl as an interference in her relationship with the boy. And the boy could not manage the affection between his mother and him and what he had between. He chose to go towards the mother and neglect his wife. And after 1 or 2 years of such living, he asked his wife to go back. She was in America and he go back to India. And for some reason she came. After that, he never called her back. And there was a divorce. And she was telling me everything, that there was absolutely no reason for a divorce. There's absolutely no reason. It's just the mom. It's just the mom convinced the boy that's highly possessive of the son. Such a strange thing. All these things occur in Kali Yuga a lot. And quite a few of such cases where the mom actually overpowers the relationship the son has with his wife and family. And sometimes the son and the family will move out of the house and take up their own house elsewhere, because this is too much. I can't handle it. And then the mom is dejected, and he comes and sees her once in a while, and I can't manage it. But he has to take a decision that I can't stay with you. You interfere with my life and my children and my wife and what I invest in her, which is important to me in my life. So managing this affection has become quite a thing nowadays. I have a case of another lady who wants to give motherly affection to one of the boys selectively to such a great extent that it became a problem. So managing our affection is important, and in Varnashrama it is done very well, nicely. Here you will see Bharata Maharaj could not manage his affection. Even though he was a great king, and even though he was known to be renounced, he had shown that he could renounce, and he had given an example of his life, but he became a victim to unbridled affection that he showed towards a deer. Of course, it's given there that, Bharata Maharaj enjoyed it because he had good karma, and his good karma manifested and gave him great hindrance to his progress in spiritual life. And he got waylaid completely. So I'm using this as an example of managing your affection and being very cautious of how we invest our affection in people. The other thing is, you may have affection for people and it turns into attachment and then becomes unmanageable when it goes to a greater extent, and then you're forced to do something in your life which you normally would not like to do or should not have done, and then you find yourself in a position which is not very comfortable for you and for your spiritual life. So for devotees, this is a telling lesson, Bharata Maharaj's story, that you have to be careful. Prabhupada keeps saying in the purport, you have to be very cautious. A person has to be very cautious in his spiritual life. You can't go around giving your affection freely to anybody, everybody, and every other thing also. And later regret it, like Bharata Maharaj did. When Bharata Maharaj came into the body of a deer, that's when he understood what he has done and why he is wrong. It took him another lifetime of a body of a deer's body to realize that what a huge mess I made of my spiritual life. All because of affection for this little deer. The small deer walked into my life and completely destroyed everything. Completely destroyed everything I had renounced. I was a sannyasi in the forest. And this could happen to me because of a deer. It didn't require a beautiful woman like, Rambha, Kilotama, Menaka. Menaka came to Vishwamitra and spoiled his meditation and everything. But Bharata Maharaj's meditation was spoiled very insidiously by a deer. Just a small deer. And he had to leave the deer and pass away alone in the forest. Now who is going to protect the deer? But his feeling was, who will protect the deer? All that was excuses. He was indulging his affection. We tell all sorts of stories and indulge our affection and enjoy it very subtly. But the mind tells you all sorts of stories to rationalize your unnecessary affection or ill-placed affection. And you go ahead and believe those stories. I am doing it because what will happen to the deer? In the middle of the forest, tigers will attack, lions will attack, and it's such a tender little thing, as though you're looking after all the deers who are born like this and are hanging out in the forest. You're not in charge of all those. Krishna is in charge. But you took over Krishna's job, and you, all that is hiding behind as excuses, but you are indulging your affection. You're enjoying it, and it's very subtle. It is so subtle that even you don't know what you're doing. Even you don't know what you're doing. So he became mad with attachment for the deer. And he got the body of a deer. And after that, he realized, now I can't do anything else. There's no more deer. There's no more me showing affection. I am myself in the body of a deer. How horrible to find yourself in the body of a deer and you're of such exalted consciousness. It's a very horrible experience. But he went through it and he had hard lessons in spiritual life. But he took it and he matured in his Krishna consciousness as Jada Bharat. And you will see that in his wonderful conversation with Maharaj Rahugana, you'll see to what level he has become firmly fixed in Krishna. So sometimes we need an experience like this in order for us to realize how to place your affection properly. Sometimes by your intelligence, you can understand by reading Bharata Maharaj's pastime, you know what to do and what not to do, how to indulge and not. So that's one example. Similarly, you have the example of Draupadi and Kunti. Draupadi's example is a great example. It's completely different. Draupadi had her 5 sons murdered by Ashwatthama. And she went through intense pain that a mother can go through, seeing her beautiful children mutilated, completely murdered. And she was definitely very disappointed and very revengeful. But when Ashwatthama came, she managed her emotions so wonderfully. She did what is dharmically correct. She didn't want to punish Ashwatthama. I don't want to go into the details of that. This thing, you must have read it in the first canto. It's a wonderful discussion on the Pandavas and Krishna discussing Draupadi's desire to have him pardoned and mildly punished. So Kunti Devi also, she prays to Krishna in her stuti, saying that I want the affection I have to the Pandavas severed. I want it to be cut. Gangevaugham udanvati. I want my love to flow towards you, my affection to flow towards you only, just like the Ganges rushes and gushes to the sea. I wanted to have no impediment. Right now, the Pandavas, who are my sons, are posing an impediment to my devotion to you. Krishna very happily takes that prayer in, and he's blessing Kunti because she's expressing herself that I have affection for the Pandavas. And she's making no bones about it. Naturally, I will have affection. They are my children. So sometimes people think that when we read all these things, we should become like a piece of stone with no affection, or be steel framed in our heart. No, you must have affection. It's legitimate. It's needed for your child's growth. But you must know how to manage that affection. It's not black or white. It's actually gray. It's about managing an affection. A yogi, Krishna explains, is one who yukta hara viharasya, yukta cheshtasya karmasu, yukta swapna abhabodasya, yogo bhavati dukkha. He's explaining that one who manages neither too much nor too less of eating and sleeping. Similarly, and each one it differs, what's the right size for me. Similarly, a devotee knows what affection level can he handle without tipping over. And what is needed for the child? What is needed in a community? How much of affection should a person give to the community members? What do they ask for? How to manage it? How to actually make them understand what they can expect and what they cannot expect. I'm a community head as a sannyasi, and I deal with all sorts of people. I deal with grahasthas who have problem within themselves. I deal with children who come to me and speak about what their parents did to them. I deal with wives who come and complain about the husband. I deal with husbands who complain about the wives. I deal with, congregational members having problems with one group and the other group. And it's all people who are actually wonderful. They've all invested affection. And it's all about managing affection, getting attention, giving attention. All of them are wonderful because devotional life is about investing in love of Krishna. How will you invest in your love of Krishna if you did not have love for Krishna's devotees? But then how do we manage that properly? If it goes excessively to another side, this way, that way, it creates an imbalance and a disturbance. So this managing of affection, so that it is fruitfully moving our whole community members and ourselves towards love of God. That's a very important thing. We must never let our affection go into deep attachment and mad attachment and do all sorts of crazy things, which is difficult for the community, which is difficult for family, which is difficult for you and for your own goal of life. That's important to know. Kunti Devi managed it very well. She actually prayed to Krishna, help me manage this. My affection for the Pandavas, standing in the way of my devotion. Bharata Maharaj did not manage it well. He did amazing things. He was in Bhava Bhakti and he blew it at a completely different place. Of course, it's too exalted event, and you should not scale it down and think and compare yourselves with Bharata Maharaj. Bharata Maharaj definitely is a very special person for Krishna. Prabhupada says that Bharata Maharaj was punished for unnecessarily indulging his affection in the deer. It was not necessary for him to do that. But he was careless, he was not vigilant. So we have capacity for investing our affection, especially women folk. They have a greater opportunity and a easier way for investing their emotion and their attachment and their affection. They have to do that carefully. And all of them know that very well, deeply inside. Men turn out to be definitely a little more, cold, analytical and whatnot. So sometimes they are on the other end of the spectrum. They are so cold and so, emotionless and have no, sense of relationship. And sometimes you see men becoming excessively emotional in Kali Yuga and women becoming the other side. We have all sorts of permutations and combinations in Kali Yuga. Kali Yuga, you see many things happening. But as a devotee, a person should learn how to manage what is required, how much is required, and how much is permitted and what is not permitted. Okay? I want to leave you with this little discussion for today. I will now pitch in if you have any questions. There's one slide, maybe I should show you this. So with Bharata Maharaj, we had attention turn into affection, into attachment, and then into madness. If you don't control and manage your affection, which is very vital and important in human society, between human beings, and what to speak of between devotees, if you don't manage it properly, the affection that turns into attachment can actually go completely off. Unmanageably off. And attachment is another big story. We'll talk about that in the next session. Okay, righto. Thank you. Hare Krishna. I just open up for a little discussion if you have any discussion. Oops. Yeah. Right. Rajeshwar Gauranga Das and Rasalila Devidasi, and then Ambika, and then Namrata Agarwal, and Anarpita, and Mahashringa, in that order. Okay. Shoot.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yeah.
Maharaj, I'd like to know about Draupadi. You gave an example of Draupadi and also Bharat Maharaj. So Bharat Maharaj was in Bhav in the level of Bhav. So that means in the level of Bhav, so definitely he surrendered to Krishna. And so, but still he couldn't manage his affection. But in case of Draupadi, I don't know what was the level of, in devotion, but he was, he surrendered to Krishna. She surrendered to Krishna. So, I cannot understand that both are in the elevated stage, but still one could manage the affection, but other could not. So could you please explain this one?
Well, that is individuality. Prabhupada explains that Bharata Maharaj in the stage of Bhava has unnecessarily indulged in the deer, which other means any time I can do any of these things because I'm an individual. That's why people talk about this in terms of fall down from the spiritual world. How can you fall down once you are in the spiritual world? The same reason is, how can Bharata Maharaj fall down if he's in Bhava Bhakti? Well, you can. But Bharata Maharaj's fall down is not like that type of a fall down. Right? It is different. It is just, Prabhupada explained, it's a rap on the wrist. Hey, watch out. You have a little rap. Sometimes, you give a kid a small tap and say, get up, go, do your homework. He understands. It's a mild rap. So Bharata Maharaj Singh is something like that. And Krishna managed it. Krishna was in charge because Bharata Maharaj is a very exalted devotee. The thing is, Krishna is in charge and he is training his wonderful child how to be fully involved. It's not that you fell down for good and you can never rise up again. It's not that type of a fall down. For Draupadi, her management of her love for her children and her disappointment and everything, it was very strenuous, I'm sure. For Draupadi, the management was more to do with, what is the use of doing anything now? It will just be revengeful. And it will affect the mother of Ashwatthama the same way it has affected me. I'll become the reason for giving her also misery. Why should I do that? Okay? It was very intelligent in saying that, no, I will not do this. That means it's like, taking your attachment and then disappointment and then taking it further with revenge and buddhinashat pranshiti, as it mentioned about, whether doing something completely off, which she did not do, which means she managed very well. So also Kunti Devi managed very well. She stood right up to the end. This is the meaning of reality. Reality means it's not black and white always. It's grayish. Achintya Bheda Bheda Tattva means it's not this or that. It could be this and that. It goes very nicely together. We have to do what is necessary from time to time accordingly and understand the situation. So the difference is that Prabhupada says Bharata Maharaj did not, need not have invested in the deer. But he did it out of his own choice. That's the problem. And Draupadi and Kunti did not do it. They managed it well. It could be even Bharata Maharaj. So what? Everybody can make a mistake. All right. The next is Rasalila.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisance.
Hare
It
Krishna.
was such wonderful, like whatever you explained, it was just like reality of this Kali Yuga, very, very close to Kali Yuga. So I have a question that sometimes I have heard devotees saying that I have spiritual attachment with the opposite sex. Can you please explain what is that spiritual attachment?
I really don't know because I didn't hear it. I didn't hear the person saying it to me, but I'll explain that. That's one of those things you can be behind. Like I mentioned to you earlier, you can hide behind certain rationalization and indulge your affection.
Yes.
Because it's gratifying you very subtly. So people give all sorts of explanations. It's the Greek philosophy that speaks about Platonic love. I think that's the type of thing. In the Western philosophy, they speak about Platonic love. Plato has explained that my love with that person is not physical, it's not material, it is spiritual and all that.
Oh, yeah.
But that is indulged only by people who are on that platform. To assume that I am on that platform itself is something strange. And then to express that I have a spiritual thing is even stranger. Right? Neither do the gopis say anything like that. That I'm having spiritual love with Krishna and all. They don't even bother to say it. They just completely overcome. We'll talk about that in the next session, about what really attachment is, what it should be. So you should not mirror, you should not map some other higher experience into your life prematurely. But this is one of those cases where I say, my love for that person is spiritual. How do you know?
Yeah.
Who says so? Who says so? How do you know? It's just your mind telling you stories and rationalizing it. You have to be very careful. You have to be very, very careful. Mamamaya duratyaya. Right? So we should be honest, sincere, careful. We should carefully grow our devotion to Krishna. And these are all weeds, very subtle weeds.
Yes.
Right. At the same time, it doesn't mean somebody does not have spiritual love for somebody. But mostly in this material world, it's not so easy to do that. Okay? Right. I hope that helps you, Rasalila.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Namrata or Ambika and then Namrata and then Mahashinga and Anarpita.
Hare Krishna, thank you, Maharaj, for the wonderful value class. Very important topic, actually, because one notices that one is affectionate and one is attached to friends and people around as well. But I wanted to ask about this situation when we see that devotees, I mean, I myself as well, of course, associate and it's like the main purpose to share affection with other devotees and so on. And the actual, I mean, of course, maybe the realization is not enough for something else. So then it's a very wonderful time with friends, maybe kirtan, maybe piece of cake, things like that, that are very pleasurable and for sense gratification as well. So and I think that ladies especially, they need that in the beginning. So when does this become like essential that we really restrict ourselves from?
See, it actually becomes what you're saying when you lose your sadhana. When you lose your focus on chanting of the holy name and the importance and the central importance to that, then you know that you're going off track. Bharata Maharaj stopped doing his sacrifices, stopped doing his spiritual things, and he went ahead and kept on indulging in that. The warning is, my main purpose of having renounced my kingdom and my family and my wealth and treasury and my whole everything, coming here is not for falling in love with the deer, isn't it? That intelligence should always affect you. What am I doing? Crazy. Chuck it off. But it didn't occur in Bharata Maharaj. It's very strange. So many times, like you rightly said, this is great fun on the one side. And it is definitely the real juice and the rasa, the association of devotees. You share prasadam, you do kirtan together, you do all that. But you know you have to balance it with serious indulgence in reading Prabhupada's books and discussing it, chanting properly. If at any time those things are getting disturbed because of your affection or something that you have indulged in, then you know it's crossing the line. That's the immediate indication that you can have for, persons like us in the physical world. And it happens, and you can see it will actually happen. It's very clear. It's very clear. You'll lose your focus in chanting. You'll skip a few Mangalaratis. You'll find it's okay. What is there? Type of thing. You know that time it's happening to you. Okay. I hope that helps, Ambika ji. Right. Thank you. Namrata Agarwal.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Maharaj, for such a wonderful class. It actually made me churn so many things within my heart. So actually, Maharaj, it's like I have a nature which is very affectionate. I'm generally very affectionate towards everyone, be it relatives or anyone. And I have got the service of mentoring and counseling young girls. So these girls, they come like they are very love-starved and exploited in this world. So I feel I had this belief that I should give my relationship and love to them. That will keep them more attached to Krishna consciousness rather than just philosophy. But eventually, like obviously, I'm not getting possessive about it, but the girls are getting too attached to me. So how much is too much? I don't know. I mean, please guide me.
Well, that's a good thing. What you're doing is a preaching strategy. You must remember that. You're actually utilizing it as a preaching strategy to get them attached to Krishna. So at some point of time, these things are so subtle that you may fall into the trap of thinking they're getting attached to me, and that is nice. But it's your duty to get them attached to Prabhupada's books and Prabhupada's teachings in his life and to Krishna. If you fail to do that, you will actually be carried away like Bharata Maharaj maybe. To put it very crisply to you. So many devotees do this. They get carried away by the importance they get. And such type of things are best balanced by having other types of association. You should not always hang around your younger, girls whom you're preaching to. You should balance it with senior association. You should balance it with peer association. If you simply do too much of this, you can get derailed. Okay? And it's a nice, like I said, you must remember it's a preaching strategy. I'm putting myself in place and giving my affection and love to them so that they'll get love for Krishna. Right? They have to be directed to Krishna. Just like I told you, you have to send your child to Gurukul when you're 5 years old, when the child is 5 years old. And the mother feels that. I mean, you go to kindergarten school and see the first day you put all the kids into school. It's a mess. Every kid is crying. And the mother is also crying because she has to separate the kid. But she knows she has to do it. And the school teacher is just dragging the kid. Don't worry, it'll all be all right. Come inside. And whole classroom is crying. And all the mothers are standing outside. They're not even going back home. You see this everywhere, isn't it? And then over a period of time, after about 3 weeks, 4 weeks, there's no more crying. The kids have started enjoying each other's company. And in fact, after 2 months, they are running to school. They don't want you. They want their friends. They want the fun, the games. The teacher has become very important for them. And then you know that, fine, it's managed. Right? Although you have affection for the child, you know this is good for her. So you should let go at some time. So similarly, your people you're preaching to, you should let go in such a way they get exposed to others like you, and they can invest their love for them also. In this way, you are safe for your spiritual life. They get to meet others. These things people don't do. They say, no, they are all mine. I am preaching to them. They belong to me. They belong to me. I give them all these things happen. You know what happens. You know, I don't have to mention it. So these are all natural checks. Just let go. Krishna is looking after them. And you be always available to them and be more broad. If you get broad in preaching, there's less danger. Okay? I hope that helps you.
Thank you very much, Maharaj.
Hari Bol, Hare Krishna. Mahashringa Prabhu, it's already past time, so keep it quiet, short.
Is time there, Maharaj?
Well, I don't mind giving time till another 2 minutes.
Thank you, Maharaj. Wonderful subject. Only concern, because it requires another class also. This is lot has to be understood. Srila Prabhupada, he showed unlimited affection to the devotees. And due to this affection, the devotees could overcome unimaginable weaknesses. They were really attached. There was affection, there was attachment also. And we are still feeling that attachment to our seniors, gurus and senior Vaishnavas. And that is what is keeping us and moving us forward. So, but then today you have told a very fine line and how to manage it and, etc. So this is very, very delicate and confusing, means how to balance and where is the, stop button or something like that.
Well, your question is very, very general. And I think we have done some fundamental work today and get some understanding and churn it in your head. Prabhupada knows how to manage those things very, very well. He was very expert. He knew how to chastise his disciple at the same time, also show affection. Many of us can show only affection, cannot actually do certain things that will jeopardize or endanger our affection. That is, you're afraid that you lose yourself or you will suffer a loss. Prabhupada was very good at balancing these things. With senior devotees who could take it, he would give them pretty good chastisement, at the same time show affection. With younger devotees who are just coming up, he would mostly show only affection and love. You can see all these distinctions. He will have the senior devotees rule and give instructions to the juniors. And his role was, that's how it should be as a community head, as a person who's a worldwide founder acharya. So he had a system in place which organically came into place because of the culture of Krishna consciousness, which was very natural to him. Sometimes we don't have that Varnashrama culture existing, so we have to talk about affection as a separate topic and do a seminar and a workshop on it. Because in Kali Yuga, it's all like, these are all natural things everybody does in a family and everything. They don't need to be trained. Comes naturally, but this is Kali Yuga. You have to teach people how to sleep, how to eat, how to take a bath, how to show your affection. It's a very low age where basic human functions have to be taught. So what to speak of other things? I have here a place called Hush. You can come and sleep every day there. They'll put you to sleep because many guys can't sleep. So if you go to Hush, you pay, a few thousand rupees a day, and they'll give you some perfumes and a hot water bath and some nice tea and some light this thing and a massage or something and put you to sleep. Great. I mean, you don't know how to sleep. You don't know how to show your affection. You don't know how to manage this Kali Yuga syndrome. So what to do? That's how it is. Okay, Anarpita, you have exactly 1 second.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, Dhanvatnam. Thank you so much for a wonderful lecture. Very enlightening. Maharaj, I have two questions here. My first question is very nicely shown the picture here that affection, how to manage the affection, it is required to manage. But as per the mental state of Kunti Maharani and Draupadi, that we are not able to understand what kind of mindset they have, so they could manage in their situation while they were the mother. They have a lot of affection with their child, even though they could manage in that situation. And at the end, Kunti Maharani is saying that, oh Krishna, please take all the affection in your lotus feet. And how she could manage this idea, I don't have this type of strategy. We know that we have to do, but how to do that, I'm not able to understand this.
Naturally you'll not understand because you're not Kunti Devi. You can't be in her shoes. Okay, you can only learn according to your consciousness and your requirement. Maybe Krishna has the understanding what Kunti Devi, because he's Paramatma in the heart of Kunti Devi. And she has, her mental state, she has expressed very well in that Kunti Stuti. Namasye Purusham Tvadyam Ishwaram Prakrite Param, her very famous prayers. She has expressed that I am just a woman, how will I understand this? And how will I be able to manage my affection for the Pandavas? You saved us, you protected us. You are everything for me. She expressed her entire mental state in that. If you want to know, of course, we can't call it a mental state. We can call it a devotional state. But within that is involved her emotions, her feelings towards Krishna and everything. So we should read that and get inspired. It's not that we want to imitate Kunti, but we should take this principle. The principle is that it varies. Different situations vary for different people. Everybody commonly goes through certain things. Those common principles we can understand. And then specific to yourself is your own game. You have to take and apply it. It may not be the same like others, like your neighbor, like your next door person. It'll be different. Each one's life is different. It need not be exactly the same. But the principles we take and we apply. Your management of your affection may need some different thing. But basically the bottom line is, don't give up your spiritual practices, and your sadhana should not be affected. Because we are sadhakas. We are not managing affection like the gopis were managing. That we will discuss in the next session. They were completely lost in managing their affection for Krishna. And why? There's other reasons for it. That type of attachment is very different. But obviously we are not like that at all. We need to materially manage it and spiritually manage it. Our situation is different. So we should act according to our situation. Everybody's life is unique. And only you will know best what it is. Okay? Thank you. Hare Krishna. Jai Srila Prabhupada ki.
Thank you so much.
Have a great breakfast if you haven't had one yet. And I think you all of you look wrapped up. Here in South India, it's warm and the sun is shining. It's a little chilly in the morning, but I took off my everything, and I feel perfectly all right. I hope you have a great time and stay free from Omicron. Another living being is after us. Stay free and have a great breakfast and enjoy life. And don't invest too much of affection. Om Tat Sat.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Thank you so much for this very wonderful presentation, very practical, really very, very necessary actually for the devotees, because this is like ongoing daily experience, the experience of affection, attraction. This is very, very, so thank you so much. I think everybody would have gained a lot today.
My affection for all of you is growing. I have to be careful now. Om Tat Sat.
Cut off, Maharaj. Hare Krishna.